the time comes to make business succession plans, most private businesses will use one of three options. Pass ownership to a family member. Sell the business, maybe to a competitor, a strategic buyer, or even private equity. Or, sadly, often just close the business down and sell off the parts. But there's also a fourth option that's gaining a lot of attention lately. Forming an ESOP and selling the business to your employees. In this episode, we discuss what an ESOP means to your legacy.
As an employee-owned company, it's easy to understand the value of employee ownership. But we've assembled a group of professionals here today who are going to talk about why, how, and what you should do to set up your ESOP. Talk about legacy. What are the key ingredients you see in founders who actually want to go through the ESOP process? What are those legacy things that you see?
Well, I talk to them about their business and what they want their business to be in the future, what they want their legacy to be. I talk to them about their community. Do they want to be able to walk through their community with their head held high, knowing that they built something that still exists? Do they want their business to be run the way that they ran it, but still have room for innovation?
I think one of my favorite stories was a company I was brought into in the Midwest that had been around. There was a father and a son, second generation. Company is the largest employer in town. And we began to talk about the benefits of the ESOP structure. It began to resonate with him a little bit more. He was in his 80s, and his son was in his 60s. And so as we talked to this business owner who began to understand a little bit more about the motivation behind it, and this individual was very philanthropic in his community, but did want to get fair value for the business. And he wanted to get to 100% tax-exempt structure, which would make the company not pay any federal income tax, but did not want to take back a seller note, understanding that he was in his late 80s and wanted to have the merits of that. And so we went back to the different structures the company could look at for financing. He's evaluating private equity, which at the time was providing a higher multiple. Private equity is an after-tax return. And then he began to evaluate the ESOP, where he could do a C Corp 1042 strategy, which would be a capital gain deferral. And he realized he could have the win-win. He could get the full value for the business, but at the same time, be able to give back to those employees that really brought the business to where it was today.
Is that business still in place today?
The business is still in place today.
I think our community is littered with great stories of ESOP companies. One of my favorites is a company that was created through the aggregation of several related businesses on the West Coast over the course of the last 100 years. All of those businesses needed somebody to own them if they were going to continue. And you had mostly sons and grandsons and increasingly daughters and granddaughters in those businesses. And over time, they decided that the way to keep those individual independent businesses going and independent was to put them all together under one company. And they essentially merged into one large ESOP company that continues to this day, with the idea that we want to provide an opportunity and a challenge for our workers to continue to do the things that have made us successful all these years.
Well, this founder used to do the work that his employees do. It's very, very hard physical labor. His dad founded the company, and his dad started him out for the first 10 years or so actually doing this work. And then he couldn't do it anymore. And he was only 35. So he said to himself, everybody who goes out here every day and does this really hard physical labor, they're going to have nothing. They're going to be unemployable. They're going to be broken down. And I have to do something about that. And he did. He formed an ESOP. It's a very large workforce. They're in their space, they're the largest in the country. Some of them approached him and they said, you know, you changed my life. You changed my family's life. And for the first time, I feel secure enough to get my kid through college. For the first time, I can walk through the town with my head held high. I'm just a laborer, but I'm an owner, and there's going to be something for me in the end. And when he would go to the plant and he would walk through, he saw a different look on the employee's face the day after they formed the ESOP, 5 years later, 10 years later, than he had ever seen before. And by the way, That's not the only story of its kind. I've heard dozens of those kinds of stories throughout the ESOP community.
Well, legacy is probably the most important motive. When I'm talking to people considering ESOPs, that's the word I'm sort of listening for. One of my favorite clients has a little slideshow that they put together. And one of the early slides is a picture of the bust of his father in the lobby of the company. And his comment is, I started working in this company at 6 years old, licking envelopes for my parents who had founded the company. There's a bust of my father in the lobby. If I sold the company, what happens to that bust? It's in the trash the next day.
I can tell you what, this has been the dream team. Great answers. And if you're out there watching this, I hope you have a chance to experience an ESOP, find out what it's about. And I hope if you're a founder of a company, you find a pathway to make that work.
If you want to learn more about forming an ESOP, please contact the local chapter of the ESOP Association and consider attending a conference or event.